Welcome to the Gateless Podcast. I'm really glad that you're here. I'm your host, Kara Carews. This is where you'll find conversations with self-made women who share their playbooks, their tips, their actual experiences on the journey to success. I also chat with experts and practitioners of mindset, stress, productivity, emotional, and mental health. Because if you're listening to this, you're somebody that bets boldly on yourself and you care about optimizing how you feel, perform, give back, love, and just move through the world. This podcast is here to help you become the absolute most incredible version of yourself in life and in business. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. We really appreciate your feedback and reviews. The only way that we grow right now is from you sharing your favorite episodes with your family and friends on social media. So thank you for doing that. Go do that big, cool thing that you've been dreaming about today. So, why don't we let's pick up on a couple of topics. So, we started that conversation of unmasked leadership and what it means to be an unmasked leader and how to start being conscious of the way in which you're leading and operating in any kind of construct where you're leading people, and ways in which you can incorporate more authenticity into your day to day and your life, and with the purpose of incorporating that in your leadership style. I feel like you gave so many good actionable nuggets, but I want to go way deeper into the how we even get to the place where we're moving through the world with so many masks up, and how we even get to the place where we're so uncomfortable being authentic and vulnerable, and why we're doing all this shielding. And I had a conversation yesterday, like I mentioned to you, about how a lot of this is just based on a broken foundation of not having strong self identity and thinking that we're going to reach this pinnacle of self identity once we
Yeah,
reach some version of success that we've been chasing. I would love to start. Can we just dig into the foundation
yeah,
that needs to be there and that's commonly like broken or not built on sturdy
right,
ground, really, that gets us in a place to where we're even moving through the world being such a masked version of ourselves in any capacity.
right. Well, I think, Kara, that's why this work is so important because we're not taught this. We're not taught this. And thankfully now I feel like our generation is more aware of emotional IQ. We're more aware of emotional health. We're more aware of mental health. It's being normalized. We still have a long ways to go, but I believe that we're having conversations now with our children and this next upcoming this movement of normalizing mental and emotional health. And it's going to be pivotal in building our kids with a strong foundation. And that's, like you said, Kara, where it really comes down to is we don't have a strong foundation. And so many of us are entering adulthood with this internal void and we don't know what's missing. And so those masks actually act as a shield of protection. We're trying to protect ourselves from fear or from anxiety or from these hard feelings that we don't know how to process or move through the world with. And oftentimes this can stem from words that have been spoken over us. These can be stemmed from things we have caught from culture, things we have absorbed from other people, and they just become this storytelling narrative that's running on replay over and over and over in our mind. And then those tracks become our belief and our truth, even though they are a lie. And so we just tell ourselves that's on replay over and over and over. And that becomes our foundation. And that foundation is rocky and that foundation is broken. And we continue to build these masks on top of that, and then we get further and further away and further hardened to what our true core purpose is and our true knowing of who we are. And that's what this whole thing is in regards to being an unmasked leader is taking off all of that garbage, all of that hardened gunk and
Mhm.
getting into the root of your truth, your identity. We're never taught that at a young age. Some of us are, but the mass majority are not.
Yeah.
And so it's reconnecting with that and redefining your truth and redefining who you are and going out there and living that.
How does one begin to unravel and look at themselves in the
Mhm.
mirror and say, like, who actually am I? And am I the person that I want to be or that I feel like I am? Or am I the person that I felt like I was supposed to be to make
Yeah.
somebody proud or that I'm supposed to be to fit in society or whatever it is, like how does one even go about that process of taking down the masks and looking at themselves and answering the question, who am I, without all the stuff?
I just had to pull up this. So I told to your listeners, I told Kara I have a workshop I'm teaching after this, like a really in-depth workshop on becoming an unmasked leader. And right in the chunk of this workshop, there's a whole process we walk through of shedding the layers. And the acronym is actually SHED. And it starts with going in. Oftentimes, Kara, we are so quick to going out for these questions and searching for these answers. And so we'll go to the latest retreat. We'll go to the latest event will just thirst for all of these self-help books, which is fine to a degree. But oftentimes what we see is this fire hydrant of consumption, and we're still lost and we're still spinning. And so what we want to do is we want to go in and we want to go up. So we want to go in and we want to go up, and we have to connect with the greater purpose of our life and our true self instead of looking outwards for that. So we got to go in and up and up. And so I have some really basic questions that your listeners can begin to write down, ask themselves, and do the work. This is a seed in a podcast to start to do the work in your own life. So this ironically is called the SHED. And so it's just a really simple acronym for us to go deeper, 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 like into the root. So each question is meant to go just a little bit deeper. So I have a few questions within each of these areas, but we'll just do one of them for each section and then just really work through that. So the S is for self-reflection. This is you looking at what drives your need to project flawless, whether it's competence or strength or achievement. What is driving that? Because oftentimes we are so driven to achieve this. We are so driven to go after that, but we don't know why, like what it is. And oftentimes it's a feeling, like we're going after a feeling. And so when you can figure out what's driving your need to go after what it is, whether it's to prove somebody or to put another notch in your worthiness or whatever, oftentimes it's driven by external motives. We want to switch that to internal. So the first is self-reflection. That's looking at what is driving your current desire for XYZ. The H is to honor authenticity. This one I love so much because as we begin to unpack the layers, we want to look at what is your heart's true desire? What is it that you really, really want, or you feel really, really cold in this life? Because oftentimes we're going after what we think other people want to see us at, or what we think will make us look good, or what we think will make us be. But when we can take away all those factors, what is it that your heart truly wants? And oftentimes it's rooted in a feeling. So for me, it's joy, it's peace, it's contentment, it's impact. It's looking at these deep seated feelings of what I really want to experience in life. And when we can marry that with our mission, when we can marry that with our true God given purpose, that is where such a strong foundation is laid. So honor your authenticity. What is it that's your heart's true desire? And we can even unpack that even more by asking ourselves what's currently working and what's not working. And oftentimes we can look at what's currently working as in what habits do I have that are serving me? What habits do I have that are pulling me further away? A big one with this is what thoughts do I have that are serving me? What thoughts do I have that are not serving me? And we can get real nitty gritty with the thoughts running in our mind and begin to list those out and see what's playing on repeat. And most times those thoughts are negative and they're pulling us away from our true north. So that is super great for self-awareness and that reflection piece. When we go even deeper, this is the part where it gets tricky because I feel like most people want this journey to be easy. They want this journey to be light. They want this journey to be just one of ease. And we have to embrace the resistance because we know that anytime we're about to change, anytime we're about to shed some layers, anytime we're about to move up in different areas of our life, and I mean move up in the sense of going deeper, not moving up in the sense of going to get another accolade or going to get this or materialistic things. I mean, move up as in going deeper within you. We're going to embrace
Mhm.
resistance. Your brain will go ding, 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 ding. This is dangerous because this is new. And so it has to come from a place of you being able to coach yourself through this and allow yourself to expect the resistance, plan for the resistance, and move through the resistance. So I always tell clients, like, you can expect it, but we don't want to fight it. We want to work with it. And so a good way to do this is to ask yourself, when do I feel disconnected from my true self? When do I feel
Hmm.
disconnected from my true self? And so oftentimes, if we begin to try on these new thoughts and try on these new habits and begin to look at these lies and beliefs that we have believed in our past, our brain wants to tell us that, well, that is true. And we've believed this for so long that it's all we know. And so that's where you being able to come back and say, hey, like, I'm holding that space for you. And this is what we now believe. So it's this whole dynamic of we can expect it and we can gently redirect it. And then the last is decide. I love this one so much because we are not what our past says. We are not what our past has done. We are not what we have done in our past, but we are who we are and who we decide to be today. And our past has such a profound impact on our story and on our journey and who we become and how we choose to become. And so, looking at that, I think so many people, myself included, can get caught up in identifying with that old version of ourselves. But when we are able to define and redefine over and over again what those core values are, and then aligning your daily actions and your daily thoughts with those values, that is the constant renewal that we need to stay focused and to stay anchored. And this is a deep process, but it's all about self awareness. And again, shedding those layers and going deeper and deeper and deeper to figure out who you are and then connecting your thoughts and your actions with that truth and then building that momentum going forward.
Those are great. Okay, so self-reflection, honor authenticity. What was the third one?
It was embrace
Embrace
resistance.
and then decide.
Yep.
Embrace resistance and decide. Which one of those do you feel like is the hardest for people to do? Honor authenticity? Because
Yeah,
I feel like
I think so.
if you
I
don't
think
know, if you don't know what is authentic to you, it's really hard to honor it.
totally, totally. And I think people are afraid to know who they are. I know for me, like, I was afraid to see who that person was because I've ran from her my whole life. And so I also think that we have such rooted beliefs in who we've been over the years and who our parents told us we've been, or who our friends have said we've been, or who society says we are, that we don't really know who we are. And so it can be really scary. I know when I we have a mutual friend who calls it like the dark night of the soul. And I'm like, this is so relevant. And I feel like we all have these seasons where it's like the dark night of our soul, where we really are just rocked to our core. And I feel like when I had my season, I felt so emotionally naked. I felt so emotionally vulnerable of being in this space of I have no idea who I am. I have no idea who I am. And for so long I thought I did. And unfortunately, like I was pretending and I thought I knew. And that's what's so scary, Kara, is we're in this space for high achieving women and we're really great at putting on the outward front. We're really productive. We're really driven. We're really put together, quote unquote, put together. And on the inside, it's really easy for us to lose ourselves in that process and be afraid to do the work to get down to who we actually are. And that's why I'm so glad we're having these conversations, because when we can reconnect that, our truth to who we really are, and continue to pursue our God given calling in this world, that's where the magic happens. We have been so gifted with this space to be driven and to be women of influence and women of impact. When we can do so with a pure heart, with our integrity, with no shadow of a doubt, knowing of who we are on our inside, that it changes the world, because it changes our relationship with ourselves, with others, with our work. And it's just this incredible, empowering movement that, I mean, I think about this, like if we had this 20, 30 years ago, how different things could be. And so it's just awesome that we're having these conversations now.
It's so true. Can you paint the picture of what somebody's life might look like when they feel like they're doing all the right things and
Mm,
there's this illusion of success, but
mhm,
there is misalignment internally? Like, paint that
mm,
picture. Talk about what that looks like, feels like. Because I sometimes think it's hard for people to even recognize, wait, am I truly aligned and feel totally fulfilled by
mm.
what I'm doing and where I'm at and what I think are my goals? Or is this an illusion that I'm building right now?
Yeah. Yeah, this is so good. And I think this is where that piece of self reflection is so important because it is. It's so easy, Kara, for us to get caught up in the superficial success, is what I call it. And I will share this story. We had this season in our life where we were the most successful we've ever been on paper and the most broken on the inside. And you'll know, like, I knew in that season something was off because I wasn't feeling well on the inside, and I was searching for quick hits of dopamine to fill the void. So for me, it started off looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was doing this for years. It started off super innocent, like watching the Hallmark Channel when my boys would nap to escape my reality. And what I would do, and I can't even believe this now looking back. I'm like, that's so like, what a great escape to numb out, but also super unhealthy. But what I would do, Kara, is I would watch the Hallmark Channel and I would totally disconnect from my reality when the kids would go to bed during their nap time, whatever. And I would get my computer out to work, but also I would pretend that I was in these Hallmark shows and I would pretend like all of these actors were my friends. I would pretend like I was actually in these wherever we were at. And then the boys would wake up and I would have my fix of like, oh, I was with my friends today. And I didn't even know this. I had this coping strategy. And so that lasted for a few years. And then
Wow.
as I struggled more and more and more, it's like if you don't fix what's going on the inside, it continues to build and build and build. And then those habits got worse and worse and worse. And then the anxiety got scarier and scarier and scarier. And then it was the mental fallout of like, I don't know what's happening and I can't even like function in my world, but I was. And so I never addressed it. And so I'm not even sure what the original question was. But when we can look back, we can see the habits that we've built to numb out, to escape. What was the original question? That was a Hallmark Channel tangent. But I think
No,
that's such a cool example.
you answered it. That is an example. My question was, could you paint the picture of what like superficial
Mm,
success looks like and feels like in somebody's life that maybe requires you to take a look, and if there is that internal feeling of misalignment or not feeling whole or dissatisfied with what you're actually doing every day, where you're trudging towards, whatever it is, what does
yes.
that look like and feel like? For me, I think it was like to a place of I was doing all the inputs of an on paper very good job, very successful
Mhm.
company, all these things. And at the end of the day, I felt so unfulfilled that I started to feel
Yeah.
really at odds with my relationship with my son. Like I
Mm,
reached this place of burnout in my work. And during the day, I would feel like, oh my gosh, this is not meaningful to me. I wish I was just hanging out with my baby. And then in the evenings when
yeah.
I was able to do that, I was like, gosh, I'm so burnt. I'm so tired. I wish you could just fall asleep right now. And so it was
Mhm.
this, I was like, I didn't like it when I was at work. I didn't like it when I was in the evening. And I was just
Yeah.
my cup was not full. And
Yeah.
on paper, I had a job that a lot of people would want, and I was grateful for it. But that was the narrative for me. I need to be grateful for this job because it's providing me a wonderful lifestyle and security and all these things. But I was very misaligned and broken on
Yeah.
the inside with how I was spending my time and energy.
Yes.
And that translated to me also feeling pretty unfulfilled in the evenings when I had time to spend with my son. So
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't, and then
Yeah.
as soon as I left, that's what I needed to do. I needed to leave that job and I needed to take time off for myself, heal my
Mhm.
soul, have some self-reflection time. Do honestly all of these steps that you've talked about,
Literally.
reflect, honor my authenticity. And it was like I didn't need to be shameful just because I didn't like that really great high-paying, super powerful job that a lot of people would
Right.
love to have. That I don't need to feel shame about not liking it and not wanting it.
Right.
And,
Right.
you know, and then embracing the resistance of when I felt I was feeling so disconnected in every single moment of my life at that point, and it was because I was doing something that didn't meaning it was not meaningful to
Right.
me. It didn't fill my cup. I didn't feel like I was doing good in the world, and that is the most important thing to me. And then I just decided that just because I had had a 10-year career in that particular type of tech and I was good at it, didn't mean that needed to be my future self. And
Right.
it was like releasing all of those things that got me to a
Yes.
place of, okay, I was successful, but really
Right.
unhappy.
Right, and I think that is exactly it, and we're all gonna have that feeling on the inside and experience a little bit different, but your experience is exactly it. Something felt off, and so if we could broaden this and generalize this, if you are constantly searching for the next promotion, the next this, the next trip, the next that, trying to rush through things for that hit of, okay, I'll feel better when I get this, or I'll feel better when we get this, or I'll feel better once I'm off work and at home. It's like we can never be fully present with where we're at now. And so that's a huge red flag is if you're always searching for that next little hit of excitement, of feel good, of validation, whatever it is, that's the first red flag. And I know, Carol, you and I have both experienced this. I wish someone would
Mhm.
have told me this a long time ago. So hopefully for our listeners today, this is not condemnation. This is not conviction. This is true encouragement of, hey, learn from our mistakes, learn and begin to reflect on this self. And don't, like you were saying, Kira, don't shame yourself. I know, like, I have walked with so much shame and continue to have to release that every single day. It's this constant renewal until we
Mhm.
can get to this point of, I don't have to carry that. I don't have to walk with that. At this point now where it's like, I don't have shame. And release that. But it does. It takes understanding where we're at. If something feels off, if you're searching for that next hit, if you're never content, not to say that we're supposed to be joyful and happy and this abundant feeling all day long, right? That's not what we're after. We're human. We have brains. We have lulls. The point is, you know how to move through them and you don't stay there. You don't want to stay stuck in the sad. You don't want to stay stuck in the stress, but you want to be able to recognize it, move through it, and then stop running from yourself, stop running from your emotions. So if you're always discontent or you have that track playing, something is off on the inside.
How is this correlated to where we get our self-worth?
Mm,
Because I think I shared with you this with you before, but after I had my son and I went back to work, my brain just didn't feel the same for quite some time, and that was the moment that I had no choice but to realize and look it in the face of like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much of my self-worth was wrapped
mm,
up in thinking quickly and being smart and adding value to conversations and being productive at work and making an impact in a business way." That
yeah.
was so much of how I valued myself, and that
Yes.
was the moment where I was forced to reevaluate it because I wasn't actually able to contribute at the level that I once was for a while, and I didn't
Yeah.
expect it, had no idea how to move through it and be kind to myself, and I figured it out, and I'm
Mm,
grateful I had that experience because I can now help others that come after me who go through that. So I'm grateful for the experience, but it was for more than one reason. I wanna be able to help people through that, but also it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in taking a look at myself and really
yeah.
taking stock of how I valued myself and how I got my self-esteem. But how is what you're talking about related to taking stock of that too? Like, where are you getting your self-worth from?
This is such a great question. And it's honestly, it's like we're born with it, right? Like we are born with purpose. We are born with intention. We are 100% worthy. And I struggled to care with my worthiness too, of that it was tied in external factors. It was tied in my work. It was tied in my relationships. I was a people pleaser and I craved the attention of others. And I didn't know that about myself, but I tied my worth into the compliments. I tied my worth into the accolades. I tied my worth into all that I could prove on the outside. Yet, although that looked great and it felt great, I was never as broken as I was on the inside. And so, what we have to do to strip away all that junk is understand that when we are born, we are 100% worthy just as we are. And I always tell our boys this too, there is nothing you can do that will make mom or dad's love get any bigger or any smaller. And it's 100% unconditional, which means it's like a big waterfall and it never dries up. It never goes away. And when I talk to my boys like this, they're like, okay, mom, whatever. I'm like, do you realize how good this is for you? And whatever happens to it. But I know they hear it. And so I try to just really embody that for ourselves too. That's how our worthiness is. That's how God sees us. We were created on purpose, and our worthiness, it never changes. There's nothing we can do to make our worthiness get any bigger or get any smaller. And when we stop relying on other people to tell us what our worthiness is, or when we stop relying on our accomplishments to tell us how worthy we are, and we know that on the inside, like we are 100% worthy no matter what, and nothing changes that, that truth is so empowering. And it'll really help us to just build on that foundation, that cornerstone.
Yeah. Isn't it? I mean, bringing this back to leadership, isn't it wild how so many people are put in positions to lead without really knowing how to lead themselves or
Yes.
knowing
Yeah.
how to be a whole person? It
Yeah.
seems like the most absolute critical thing to being a good leader is knowing yourself and knowing how to lead
Knowing you.
yourself and
Yeah.
leading with
First.
like, yeah, knowing you. And so many people, I think most people don't know you.
Yes.
And it just seems so crazy to me after
I
really
know.
understanding this concept a bit more, to how ill-equipped most of us are to move into the world leading people in any capacity without having done the self-work first.
Right. And that's why these conversations are so important because
Yeah.
it is. It's a bunch of blind leading the blind. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, like I feel like you and I were both in that season of blind leading the blind. But fortunately, now we had our moments. We were able to hit our rock bottom, and now we get to have these conversations to help others. So it's not the blind leading the blind because we have to know ourselves and lead ourselves first to be the most effective, powerful leaders. We look at some of the best, courageous, amazing leaders in our lifetime. And the first person that comes to me, obviously, like John Maxwell, right? And the way he's able to lead others by first knowing himself and leading himself. It's just so evident. And he's such a great example of that. And I don't know his past, but it's just like he did the work. He did the work on himself. And so if we can shave off years of pain and discongruent and lack of integrity and the discontentment of leaders today by helping them align with who they are and understand who they are, that's going to change the world of leadership. And it's going to help their teams and their organizations begin to really thrive as well. It's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And it's really
The
cool
whole
to
thing.
see. It is a whole thing. It's just more accepting now and more normalized. And it's a really special time to have these conversations. And the world needs it now more than ever.
I totally agree. I've really enjoyed learning about this more in depth. I want to continue
Mhm.
learning more about it. I so appreciate these conversations with you. I want to continue to have them. Where can listeners go to learn more about your
Yeah.
work and just more dig more into the whole thing of
Yes.
unmasked leadership and
Yeah.
knowing yourself?
Yeah, I would say our podcast is probably the best place to go. So the Dr. Jennifer Blossom Show over on Instagram, Dr. Jennifer Blossom, and then our website, drjenniferblossom.com. Super original, but it's just different modalities of content and conversations, retreats, workshops, all the things to just unpack the layers of unmasking. There's so many layers of it, but it's a real beautiful concept. There's no rush to it. I feel like people can get really overwhelmed with it. Of like, where do I start?
Yeah.
And I got to rush through this, but there is no rush. We have our whole lifetime to work through this. And we're going to be working through it our whole life because each season in life, we begin to unmask even more and more and more and more. It's a continual process of shedding and renewal and expansion over and over again. That's how we grow. That's how we grow. Beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time and for being here
Thank
and
you.
continuing to educate us on such an important topic.
Yeah. Thank you, Kara. Your work too is just incredible. So thank you for holding the space to have these conversations.
Of course. Hopefully, we will talk again soon.
We will. Thanks.
Are you somebody that loves to listen to podcasts, learn, and consume knowledge in general, but maybe you find the process of picking those episodes that are really value packed and worth your time challenging? Am I right? You're busy. I get it. If that's the case, the Pod Squad is for you. Every Tuesday, Haley and I are dropping in your inbox the absolute best listens for personal development and business podcasts for the week. We will even give you the Cliff Notes version so that you can still apply the takeaways and consume the knowledge quickly, even if you don't have time to listen to them all. To get the rec sent to you, just go to getgateless.com/subscribe or click the link in the show notes and enter your email address, and that's all you have to do. You will look forward to this every single week, and it will just be your listening cue until the following Tuesday. I hope you enjoy.